Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce Board of Directors, I'm delighted to welcome you to the second of the Leaders Series breakfasts. So many of you were with us last week when we heard from Progressive Conservative leader Heather Stephenson, and we are pleased that you have joined us again this morning to hear from NDP leader Kinew. So I'm wondering, last week we gave you some homework, and as Chuck has talked about, the Vote Prosperity document. And we encouraged you to give that a read, and we hope that you have done so. And as Chuck spoke about, economic competitiveness and business confidence are at the core of the 4 pillars that are outlined in Vote Prosperity. As we said last week, when we have a strong provincial economy, we attract new business and enable existing businesses to thrive. We attract talent and we keep talent. And we show the rest of the world that Manitoba has what it needs to thrive. In order to do all of those things, though, we must invest in trade and commit to rural and northern health care. We must support childcare and focus on public safety in municipalities. The core pillars outlined in Vote Prosperity are central to the work that the Chamber does every day. And as the voice of business in Manitoba, we are nonpartisan and non-candidate specific. What we are is collaborative and connections, and it is at the heart of everything we do. We believe that the economy must be the driving force behind government decision-making, and we look forward to working with the next government to make that a priority. So this morning, we're looking forward to hearing from the leader of the Manitoba NDP, and the MLA for Fort Rouge, Kinew, who will share his vision on the future of Manitoba. Mr. Kinew is the author of 4 books, including the national best-selling memoir, The Reason You Walk. He's also an honorary witness for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. Prior to politics, he worked as a journalist and in post-secondary education. He lives in Winnipeg with his wife, Dr. Lisa Kinew, and their 3 sons. We welcome Mr. Kinew to the podium, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Well, thank you so much, Allison and Chuck, and to everybody at the Manitoba Chamber. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. I just want to take a moment to thank you all for coming out first thing in the morning. All that we ask is a fair hearing, and the fact that you show up to give us just that is very humbling. And so I just want to begin on a note of thanks. And while I'm doing so, I also want to take a minute to thank the great political staff that I work with on a given day. And there's been times during this campaign, which is a very demanding 24/7 journey that we're all on together, where I see the sacrifices that people on our team are making. And I'm sure that you as leaders see this in your own organizations, your own teams. And so hopefully you can relate. I see people on our team who are giving up time with their families, people who are contributing the best years of their lives towards this thing that we're working on together. And it really means a lot. It means a lot because I know that they're not doing this because they believe in me or even because they believe in the NDP. They're doing this because they believe in Manitoba and they believe in what this province can be. And so I just want to take a minute to say thanks to everyone who's contributing to this thing that we're working together on. How do you do? I'm Kinew, and I'm running to be our premier here in Manitoba. When I've had the opportunity to speak to the Manitoba Chamber previously, I've done more thematic speeches. The economic horse pulls the social cart. We're going to balance the books within a first term in government. And it's been a little while since I've made news at a chamber speech. I think the last time I did so was maybe 2018. I don't know if you remember this, Chuck. But we announced that we're going to block the provincial carbon tax at a Manitoba Chamber breakfast. You see the look of surprise. See, most people in the room probably don't even remember that the PCs ran on a carbon tax twice in Manitoba, right? And who blocked it? So not only did I make news then, apparently I'm making news this morning by reintroducing the idea of what happened in recent political history here to people in the room. So I'm going to make a few specific announcements to people in the room here today that I hope are going to be important contributions to the provincial economic scene going forward. Spoiler alert, one of the announcements is going to be that we're going to take the PST off of rental unit construction in Manitoba. So I'll get to that in a minute, along with a few other investments that I think are going to be crucial for the province's economic scene going forward. But first, I want to kind of ground this discussion in a conversation that I had with a Manitoban, somebody who's a newer Canadian, who's a Punjabi man, who we met at a community event in Northwest Winnipeg, which is a part of the province that he had moved to within the past decade. And like many newer Canadians, like many Manitobans from all walks of life, this man is a job creator. He was talking to us about his business, which is a tech-facing business. They do regulatory compliance for people in the trucking industry using this new technology that they've invented. And he's standing there talking to us in front of about a half dozen of his employees. And he's just beaming with pride as he's telling us he's expanded across Western Canada. He's even entered the market in California. And he's like, I'm going to keep my operation in Manitoba for the time being. So I asked him, like, so why are you staying here, and what have we got to do to keep you here as an engine of economic growth and job creation in Manitoba? And so this man, he said, well, I need to stay here. I need a strong economy. I need affordable housing. I need better health care. And I need a high-quality education for my kids that's specifically focused on math and reading. And so, the broad strokes of our economic plan is that we're going to deliver on those priority areas so that we can retain more job creators and contributors to our economy, like that person that I'm talking about. And I'm very proud to say that if you look at the Manitoba Chamber's list of priorities, it's pretty much the same list, right? And so that's what we're committed to bringing about here. So the first question that I want to address is the question that I get all the time as somebody putting my name on a ballot to lead the province, which is, sounds great, how are you going to pay for it, right? And so the first thing that I want to share with you is a message that we've been sharing over the past month and a half, which is that we have adopted Budget 2023 as our fiscal framework. What this means is there's going to be predictability. There's not going to be any mid-fiscal year tax changes or anything like that. The stuff that's in this year's budget, we're going to maintain. We're going to implement a broad middle-class tax cut, and we're going to go further in a few priority areas, such as cutting the provincial gas tax while inflation remains high. People are struggling right now, and we want to give them direct affordability relief every time you gas up. So if you're like me, you drive a pickup truck, that's going to save you about $14 every time you go to the gas station. And if you're a business owner who has fuel costs as an input cost, or if you work in the transportation industry, this is going to lower your cost of business here in Manitoba. When we get to balancing the budget, which is one of my core commitments to you as Manitobans, the basic answer for how we pay for the elements of our election platform is this. In this year's budget, there's about $500 million in unallocated spending. This is a practice that began during COVID and has been baked into the last few budget years. So you got $520 million in unallocated spending. And basically what happens right now is March Madness rolls around, the end of the fiscal year, everyone's getting a check, some other initiative like that. And the core proposition that we're making, and one that I believe is fiscally responsible, is we're saying to you, rather than leaving $520 million unallocated throughout the fiscal year, we think it's more transparent and better for stability in our provincial economy to tell you at the outset, we're going to spend that money on healthcare, economic initiatives, and affordability measures to help you during this inflationary moment. And so basically, what I'm telling you is that everything we're committing to in this campaign, staffing up the healthcare system, opening new emergency rooms in Winnipeg and in rural Manitoba, cutting the gas tax, freezing hydro rates, ending chronic homelessness across the province, All of these initiatives will total less than $520 million in spending. And so we implement this, we maintain a path towards balancing the budget within a first term in government, because again, government can't do everything when it comes to the economy. But one of the things that a provincial government has to do, if we believe in that motto that the economic horse pulls the social cart, is we need to balance the books. Because if we don't balance the books, we're always going to be coming back to you and asking for more and more. And that's just not right, particularly at this time. So that's how we're going to pay for it. We know that the provincial healthcare system is in a state of crisis right now, and we have a plan to fix it. Our plan begins with staffing. And realistically, nothing in the provincial healthcare system is going to move forward unless we have staff. On the flip side, if we don't fix the staffing crisis, we're not going to be able to do anything in healthcare. And healthcare is absolutely essential to our provincial economy. The economic horse pulls the social cart, but healthcare is the ground on which the economic horse walks. And so we got to staff up healthcare. And so in this respect, we've got a 3-point plan to staff up healthcare. 1, we need to plug the hole in the bottom of the boat. We're losing people from the front lines right now. And if we don't fix the retention issue in healthcare, we can add all the new healthcare people we want, and we're just going to set them up for failure and watch them leave the front lines in a few years' time. So how do we fix the hole in the bottom of the boat? Well, first, we need to have the incentives and competitive wages, because we are in a nationwide HR competition now. So we got to be able to compete. But importantly, we also need to bring better working conditions, more work-life balance to those who work in healthcare. And this piece in particular is one that we've watched develop over the past half-decade. We need to simplify the bureaucracy in healthcare. Because right now, with a top-heavy provincial healthcare system, we're alienating those who work on the front lines. There's an attitude of a lack of trust for the local nurse, the local physician who's caring for you at the bedside, because quite frankly, we have too many senior leaders in the healthcare system who don't have the emotional intelligence to lead the people that they've been charged with managing. So we're going to set a very clear direction in the healthcare system. We're going to ask healthcare leaders, and we will give them the opportunity to show that they can change, to get with the new program that we intend on implementing. But we're going to send a clear initiative, a clear message. Reduce wait times and improve staff morale. And if you can't do it, we're going to find people who can. This is the same sort of standard you would expect in your own organizations. We're going to bring that to healthcare to improve the culture within the healthcare system and start to plug that hole in the bottom of the boat. Then we move on to step 2, bringing in the reinforcements. This is about recruitment, training, recruiting from other provinces, recruiting international medical grads, internationally accredited nurses. We're going to need an all-of-the-above approach to staffing up healthcare. And then, of course, the third point in the plan, we have to build the healthcare system for the future. If we want people to join the front lines, we have to show them the vision that we're building towards in the future, so that that young Manitoban will say, yeah, I believe in that. I want to be a part of that healthcare system. And so this is the investments that we're talking about. These are the investments we're talking about in cancer care, a new headquarters. It's going to stimulate research, clinical care to be expanded and enhanced. And then, of course, new emergency rooms, starting with the Victoria Emergency Room in South Winnipeg. And if we want to build our province up, right now, you have about 250,000 people in South Winnipeg and nearby communities like Oak Bluff who do not have access to a state-of-the-art emergency room. And if we want to continue enticing people to move to this part of the province and to develop the economy around this area, among others, we need to ensure that their community hospital has an emergency room that is able to serve them during their time of need. So it starts with staffing. And when we've secured the staff to be able to do so, we'll put shovels in the ground to stand up a new Victoria ER. I'm very happy to tell you that this plan has been endorsed by many senior health leaders, the nurses, the paramedics, and Dr. Brian Postal amongst other health leaders. And so this is an important initiative. The other brand strength that the NDP has is on education. And I think that we all understand the importance of education to growing our economy. Education is first and foremost about empowering young people, but it is also an investment in the future of our province. And right now, as I alluded to in that story, I think there are many parents, many community members who are asking if what we are doing now is the best that we can do in terms of setting up young people in this province for future success. And I would argue that we could be doing more. And so today, I'm excited to unveil a few initiatives in the education system. So first of all, we're going to stop the cuts and underfunding in healthcare to make sure that students get more one-on-one attention from their teachers. We'll deliver this with smaller class sizes beginning in the early years, kindergarten to grade 1. And at the same time that we're reducing class sizes for these younger learners by hiring more teachers, we're also going to hire more educational assistants. One of the truly striking moments over my time in office so far was sitting in Dauphin with a room full of parents who told me, you know what, Wab, sometimes exceptional kids have exceptional needs, and we need to help them learn. And so our program is committed to delivering that support for the child in the classroom. Other young people are struggling with poverty and barriers at home before they even get to the classroom. And so we are going to implement a province-wide, universally accessible nutrition program delivered through the K-12 system to ensure that no child goes to school hungry. By the way, this will help with attendance. Truancy is a problem at too many schools in our provincial system, whether it's in the inner city, or whether it's in the north, whether it's in rural. We need to give more kids a reason to show up for school. And I can tell you from firsthand personal experience that putting out the food is one way to get kids to show up. And you may say, well, my kid is going to school, having had breakfast and with a lunch box in their hand. And what I would say to you is yes, but they're sitting in a classroom with a child who is hungry. And so it's going to improve your child's education as well if that other kid will have less behavioral issues, less acting out in the classroom because we have delivered a meal program in their school. It's pretty simple, really. If after a few years in government we can say more kids are eating in Manitoba, I think we're all going to feel pretty good about that. So we're asking for your support. At the same time, we're going to strengthen the K-12 curriculum in Manitoba. We're going to take a specific focus on math and literacy, and we're also going to ensure that our curricula reflects the Manitoba of today. That means human rights education. That means ensuring that Holocaust education, teaching about residential schools, teaching about rights for LGBT folks is part of the curricula in Manitoba. I want to be absolutely clear. Educators do an amazing job of including this in their teaching today, but we'd like to take steps forward to formalizing it. When we're talking about math and reading, let's ensure that young people are prepared to compete in the economy of tomorrow. And that needs to start in kindergarten. So rather than picking fights with educators in school divisions, we'll work with educators in school divisions to deliver what education is all about, helping young people reach their full potential. A couple specific initiatives in the education system. We're going to create an assistant deputy minister role for Indigenous excellence. We need to close the graduation gap in Manitoba. And for me, I don't just want to close the achievement gap. I want to inspire this generation of Indigenous youth to reach their full potential and to contribute fully and completely to our society. Puis, on va appuyer l'éducation en française, dans la langue française aussi. Alors, on va restaurer la position de sous-ministre adjoint pour le Bureau de l'éducation française. Et puis, on va embaucher plus d'enseignants francophones pour appuyer l'éducation en français et aussi dans les écoles d'immersion. On fera tout ça en collaboration avec la communauté et puis avec les organisations, les organismes dans la francophonie. Et surtout, nous voudrons créer un milieu dans le gouvernement provincial où les francophones pourraient travailler dans la langue française pour envisionner l'avenir, le futur de l'éducation française dans notre province. And of course, we are going to ensure that rural communities have a say in local education. And we're going to work with schools, parents, and educators to help rural students succeed. And we will provide the financial resources to deliver rural education in a strong, robust fashion. Now, one of the reasons why I'm talking so much about education in this speech about the economy is because there is a great former NDP premier of this province, Gary Dewar. And one of his sayings, you know, he's famous for these kind of folkisms, these one-liners, right? And one of his great sayings was, the best economic plan is a good education plan. And I'm a firm believer in that. And that's my not super smooth segue into talking about Mr. Dewar and just repeating the commitment that if we form government, we will name Gary Dewar as Manitoba's advisor on U.S. trade. Mr. Dewar is a sharp mind. He has an amazing Rolodex. He brought 10 balanced budgets in a row into place here in Manitoba. And he's certainly somebody that somebody like myself can learn from, many of us could learn from. But importantly, we are a trading province. And if we want to continue growing our economy, we need to be a strong presence in the United States of America, particularly at this protectionist moment in the States, to ensure that our manufacturers, our exporters, our job creators are going to continue to have access to the American market, even at a time of Buy American. And Mr. Dewar is going to help us stand up for our provincial economy. So I'm very excited about that commitment. Now, in order to build on the areas where our diversified economy is already strong, areas like transportation, manufacturing, finance, agriculture, we also need to start making investments into the clean energy economy of tomorrow. We've done a great job over the past 50 years as Manitobans in building up a low-carbon electricity grid. But now to build it out to the next step, we need the infrastructure to allow our transportation industry to take further steps into a low-carbon future. We also need to make investments in critical minerals. So, for instance, the United States of America, who is on a global search for critical minerals, will know that they have a close trading partner that can deliver those minerals to market with higher respect for the environment, higher labor standards, and higher environmental standards than almost any other jurisdiction in the world. And that's Manitoba's value proposition when it comes to the critical minerals economy. But one specific announcement that I want to share with you this morning in terms of the low-carbon economy is about hydrogen. Hydrogen is going to be an important source of energy and fuel, particularly in industrial settings and for larger vehicles. Right now, the city of Winnipeg has ordered hydrogen buses to expand transit in the city. At the same time, New Flyer, NFI, is this amazing local job creator that we have right here in the province in Transcona that is a leading edge manufacturer of not just electric buses, but also of hydrogen fuel powered buses. And so we have the building blocks of building Manitoba into a showcase. We can be a jurisdiction that stands up and shows other provinces and states you can have a strong, growing, diversified economy, an advanced economy that is doing its part to solve climate change. But we're missing a crucial piece right now. I don't know if you've noticed it in the path I've laid out here. Transit has ordered the buses. NFI is making them. Right now, we don't have a way to fuel them up. And so in this role, I envision the private sector the proponents coming from the private sector, to kickstart our hydrogen industry here in Manitoba, using low-carbon electricity to fuel transit and other industrial uses. So in order to get started, the Manitoba NDP government will stand up a hydrogen hub here in the city of Winnipeg. We will commit capital financing and debt guarantee measures to ensure that local hydrogen proponents can take important steps towards building the energy economy that our province needs. And by the way, this will help improve Winnipeg transit. So we're very keen to work with the City of Winnipeg on this initiative. It means more blue-collar jobs here in the city. It means better reliability for those who use transit, and it helps the drivers too, to ensure that there's going to be job certainty for them for generations to come. And I know we have some friends from Alberta here in the room, and I hope you don't mind that part of the message here is that there's going to be a little bit of friendly competition between our province and yours going forward into the future. I'm all for the prairie provinces being wealthy, but the friendly competitive message that I have to share with you today is, in the future, Manitoba, we're not going to participate as much in building wealth for Albertans. We're going to focus on building wealth right here for Manitobans. But we can still work together. Frenemies? I don't know. No, just kidding. No, we'll be good trading partners. We'll work together because we need each other's energy industries to succeed. But I do think Manitoba has a first mover advantage in the low carbon economy. Let's not wait. Let's strike. We've made the investments. Our provincial economy is well positioned. It's time for Manitoba to cash in. And our provincial government will deliver on that, should we get the chance to serve. So I alluded at the start to this commitment. I think we all see what's going on in the housing market right now. Rental, affordable, housing units are clearly needed right now, particularly at this inflationary moment. I knock on doors in Northeast Winnipeg and I meet young couples who say that they simply can't afford to save for a down payment, given rising costs at the pump, at the grocery store. I also speak to young people who say that even if they have a down payment, interest rates are simply too high for them to justify taking out a mortgage right now. And so that's why I'm very proud today to tell you that a Manitoba NDP government will take the PST off of new rental builds. What I'm hearing from developers right now is because of the interest rates that fewer homes are being built on spec. And so what we're having, because of the high interest rates, is capital sitting on the sidelines, capital from the would-be home buyers, capital from the developers themselves. And so this PST initiative that we're talking about, which would take the PST off of construction of rental units, is a financial incentive to spark developers to move capital back into the marketplace by way of building new rental units. And that is something that we clearly need right now. We need more rental units so that there is more affordable housing, more market-based housing across the province of Manitoba. And this is a crucial investment if you want to talk about retaining people in this province, if you want to talk about recruiting labor for the future economic development needs, for the future post-secondary research needs in our province. Those folks are going to need a place to stay. And this is not a temporary measure. This is one that we're committed to implementing over our entire term in office. At the same time, folks who move to these new communities that we're talking about and that we're building here today need to have the opportunity to enjoy life. That's why today I'm also announcing, as part of our comprehensive suite of investments in recreational opportunities across Manitoba, that we're committed to building the South Winnipeg Recreation Campus in Pembina Trails. This is another important South Winnipeg investment. We'll also build the East End Recplex in Northeast Winnipeg. It's a multi-purpose facility with indoor pools, fitness areas, and gym spaces in East Winnipeg that will offer programming for people of all ages. Et puis, on va investir dans les centres culturels importants. Et on commencera en investant dans le Centre culturel franco-manitobain à Saint-Boniface. Le centre est un lieu de musique, de spectacle et de divertissement et on va aider le centre avec le renouvellement de leur entrée principale. And of course, if somebody moves to Manitoba, or if a young person graduates from university here and they get a good job, as is our economic plan, we also need something for them to do after the shift is over. And so we need to invest in our creative sector. Creative sector investments are key to also creating further economic opportunity. And so there's a suite of measures here that I want to run through, each of which I believe is a significant contribution to the creative sectors in Manitoba. Today I'm announcing that the Manitoba NDP government will create a new $8 million annual investment in the creative sector. This is money specifically for capital projects for performing arts organizations, festivals, musicians, and other forms of artists, along with increased funding for grants programs that supports these creators. We're also going to lean into tourism. We'll bring tourism back explicitly to the cabinet table by naming a dedicated minister so we can build tourism in this province to make it the strongest in the country. For many working Manitobans, having a fun weekend might mean going to the concert hall. It might mean seeing First Fridays. It might mean going out to see a concert. But for others in the province, it means going out to hunt, going out to drive in a side-by-side, going out fishing. And so we want to support Manitobans who pursue all of those parts of our provincial way of life. And finally, we'll build on our success as a great location for film and video production by improving Manitoba's film and video production tax credit. Our novel approach here will see that instead of forcing production companies to wait to claim these credits and then have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in financing costs along the way, we will provide a cash advance on the film and television tax credit. What that means is that for future film and streaming productions here in the province, less of the money will be paid to the big banks and more of the money will be paid to putting people to work in our creative industry. And this is an important initiative. So again, these are some of the really important investments that we're talking about, and a lot of it does thematically tie in to the view of education, meaning education specifically, but economic investments at the provincial level generally should be something that empower Manitobans to be able to go out and grow the province that we want for the future. And people often ask me, in the role that I currently inhabit, why do you run? Specifically, why do you run for the party that you chose? And the answer is because I have seen a provincial government make a difference for people that I care about in my life. In the 1980s, there was a young Indigenous woman by the name of Debbie who was raising her kids in the inner city, just to the northwest of us. And that would be a tall order today. So you can imagine the barriers that she faced 40 years ago. But the provincial government of the day, a Manitoba NDP government under Howard Pauley, brought in a program where people living in poverty could have their university tuition paid for. And so Debbie took advantage of this, and she got a teacher's degree from the U of M. She got a job as a teacher. She went back to school, got a master's degree. She became a school leader, a vice principal, and then a principal. All the while, raising her own children to have a strong focus on education. And as a result, her oldest daughter became a medical doctor. And now that family is never going to live in poverty again. They had the smarts. They had the work ethic. They had the drive to succeed. They had the will. They just needed a little help finding the way. And it was a provincial government that helped them find that way. And that is our vision for Manitoba's economy. People in Manitoba have the will, and a provincial government should be there to help folks find the way. And by the way, I'm very proud to say that Debbie is my mother-in-law. And I'm so amazed at the perspicacity, drive, and talent among my in-laws. And very lucky to say that the daughter that Debbie had, Dr. Lisa Monkman, is somebody I'm proud to say that I'm married to. And so she's the brains of the operation, and I'm the one who gets to spend some time with you good people this morning. So thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you very much for the fair hearing. On October 3rd, we are asking for your vote, but regardless of how the provincial election turns out, we very much look forward to building Manitoba together.
Thank you very much. You did like 10 announcements today. Like, how's the media supposed to keep track of all the announcements you just made today?
Good problem to have, maybe, for
problem.
the media. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, and you know, I know we're only got a couple minutes because I know you got a busy schedule, but you know, I don't want to go through all of the announcements, but we'll talk a little bit about sort of broader as well. And so part of this election, and I think you've outlined it as well, and we've outlined it as well in terms of what our priorities are, in terms of how you grow the economy. And what we are, I think what Manitobans are really interested in, and I think everyone understands the importance of that, and you've talked about it, but what we're really interested in is what makes your plan different than the other plans? How do you see your plan as this is the one that's going to make a difference as compared to your opponents?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's the emergency rooms. We need emergency rooms to power our future economy, to allow communities to grow. And I think we've articulated a careful plan that starts with staffing. We focus on staffing for the first few years, and then once the staffing situation's stabilized, we can move ahead with building the healthcare system for the future. And as we've learned all too well during the pandemic, if the healthcare system's not strong, the economy can grind to a halt. None of us ever want to go through that again. So we need to build the healthcare capacity for the future. And then, of course, along the way, I think the same sort of spark that a lot of the members of our team have when it comes to the healthcare initiatives that we're proposing, they're also bringing to the investments we need to make into the creative sector, into the educational institutions, and into building the economy for the future.
Is there some concern, though, about the time frame to do that, to get to where you need it to be, to get that? I mean, we've talked a lot, and we've heard a lot over the years about improving the healthcare system. It's not as easy as you think it's going to be, correct?
I don't think it's going to be easy.
No.
In fact, I can guarantee it's going to be very, very hard. But I think our team is clear-eyed about the nature of the challenge. And that's why I talked specifically about 1, 2, 3. And that first point, it's not just about throwing more money at the existing system when we're talking about healthcare recruitment and retention. More money thrown at the existing system is not going to give us the results that we need by itself. We have to change the culture. And I think that's why our team has spent a lot of time carefully thinking and diagnosing the existing issues with the culture in healthcare and how we need to improve it for the future, using technology, using a better approach to managing the healthcare resources in our province that de-emphasizes the upper echelons of the healthcare system and provides more support and more flexibility for the nurse, the healthcare aide, the doctor who's actually delivering care to you, the patient, here in Manitoba.
One of the other elements that we've talked about a lot is interprovincial migration in terms of young people and Manitobans leaving our province on a regular basis. It's been something that's been going on for 25 years. And you talked a lot in your speech about the importance of education. What do you see in your platform that's going to be critical to reversing that trend? How do we get away from people leaving and more people looking at terms of, I want to stay in Manitoba?
Well, I think it's very personal to me, and it's personal to many people in the room because we have kids who are in university, or we have kids who are in trades training programs, or kids who are entering the workforce, and we want our kids to stay here. And then on an economic level, we need everybody in Manitoba, right? We need everybody from high school and university who's grown up here to stay here. We need everyone from up north. We need people to come in from other jurisdictions around the world. Like, we're going to need everybody in order to build the strong economy that we want. But in order to do so, I don't know that it's a specific one specific measure so much as it's a comprehensive plan that includes post-secondary education and the trades, that includes investing in the housing stock, that includes investing in an affordable quality of life here in Manitoba, and then plus those fun things to do on the weekend that I was talking about too.
You talked a little bit about K-12 education in terms of making some revamps in that, and I was listening to some of the things that you kind of talked about, and the one thing that I'm interested in, because one of the things that we hear from a lot of employers is job readiness and how ready kids coming out of grade 12 are to take that next step. How much change do we need to make in the education system to make sure that young people have a better job readiness situation?
Well, I think there's a lot of work being done by educators already. So I just want to work with them to kind of harness that creative energy and just make sure that innovations that are happening in a given classroom or a given school that are really moving the needle can actually be rolled out province-wide. Here's an example of something that I saw in one classroom. They had their local grade 5 students doing public speaking class, which I'm sure all of us had to do at a given point. But what was innovative about this specific example is that the public speaking class was run according to Robert's Rules of Order. So they had a chair, and then they had the guest speaker, and then they had the secretary, etc. But what are they doing in that classroom? Yes, they're encouraging people to become good public speakers, but they're also training those young people to be leaders in the community. Whether it's a corporate board, a not-for-profit board, a community center board, these young people starting at grade 5 are being taught to be leaders in our community. That's an innovation that doesn't cost any money. That's something that we could replicate and scale up across the province and make sure if you're in the suburbs, you're in the inner city, you're up north, you're in rural, you're getting that same exposure to what it's going to take to be a leader in our community when you grow older. And I think there's many, many opportunities for us to do that across all the different sort of educational initiatives. And I think it's just about bringing people together and making sure that we harness the creativity and expertise of educators while also making sure that parents and voices from the community and economic leaders also have their say to say, you know what? Here's some things I'm looking for the future workforce. It's STEM, it's reading, it's math in particular out of STEM, but it's also collaboration. It's also punctuality. It's also professionalism, and it's the ability to work with other people. And then we can kind of reverse engineer that and say, okay, if we want somebody at age 18 to be able to sit around a desk and convene a positive, constructive conversation in the workplace, what do we need to do at grade 5, grade 1, early childhood? Right? And so I think that's the vision of how we move education forward in a positive, collaborative, but also constructive way.
Let's talk a little bit about housing. I mean, you touched on it in one of the announcements that you made today. One of the things that we've continually heard, and it's not a big secret, is that there's a need for additional housing throughout Manitoba. It's not just a Winnipeg thing. It's an issue you're going to find in the Paw and Thompson and Dauphin. Every community that I kind of go into, when they're looking to bring people in, one of the first barriers is we don't have the housing, right? So you made your announcement today in regards to taking the PST off of new rental builds for developers and doing it over the course of the term. What other sort of elements, or how do you address some of these workforce or some of these housing challenges that we see in Manitoba?
Well, I think there's a few areas where it's particularly acute and that I'd be very interested in finding ways to work together on. One of them is there are a bunch of manufacturers in southern Manitoba. And when we're talking about making investments in the Pembina Valley, this is not necessarily me trying to go win votes, because we may not win some of these seats in the Pembina Valley. But we have large job creators, large employers in this part of the province that are bringing thousands of people to Manitoba each year, but they don't have the housing stock to support this to continue to build out over the coming years. So that's one area of need. The post-secondaries in Manitoba have effectively become a de facto immigration stream through the amount of international students that are coming to our province. And so we need to work with the post-secondaries, the colleges included, to look at student housing. And in particular, if you look at the component, the character of post-secondary students in Manitoba, they might skew a little bit older than in other jurisdictions. So we have a lot of post-secondary students who are going to school when they already have kids, which means like the bachelor or like shared accommodation space of a student residence doesn't work for them. They need 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom units. So let's work together. And this can be a collaboration with the post-secondary institutions, but also I think there's a role for community organizations and other players to be involved. And so really, those are some of the areas that I think we should get started on, because those are going to be some of the engines of future economic growth in the province. But housing might be a bottleneck unless we're really proactive in trying to build out some of those scenarios I'm talking about.
One of the opportunities that we've always said for Manitoba, and I talk a lot about sort of that Manitoba advantage in the various sectors, and you kind of touched upon this in your speech about some of the opportunities that are out there, whether it be in agriculture, manufacturing, medicaments, I assume Kim Klein is here, so medicaments, there we go. That these are big parts of the Manitoba economy, and you talked about hydrogen as another opportunity. One of the challenges that I've seen over the last number of years is we don't really do a good job of marketing that to the rest of the world. You talked about having someone specific that would help play a role in that. How do you see, and what is your sort of plan to really take advantage of everything that Manitoba has and taking it broader than just outside of our borders?
Really important question. I think provincial government has a bunch of important roles. You have to be a responsible steward of the public purse. You have to be very judicious about running the healthcare system effectively. But when it comes to the economy, I think one of the roles of the provincial government is to be the sales force for Team Manitoba. And if we want to build up the low carbon economy, if we want clean hydrogen to prevail over other forms of hydrogen, if we want critical minerals to make it to market, if we want our manufacturers and our exporters, if we want tourism to stand up at the national and international level, then the provincial government should be one of the leading sources of salespeople to share the good news, to share the message about how Manitoba is doing really exciting things, and how Manitoba on the clean energy front is showing other jurisdictions, yes, you can have good jobs and be doing your part to combat climate change. Yes, you can grow the economy, have an advanced economy, while also doing really progressive things to have a safe, clean, and healthy environment. And I think that's a piece that we could really, really lean into in the coming years.
I know you've got a busy schedule, so sort of last question that I want to ask you. In 2 weeks today, Manitobans are going to the polls. In the event that on October 1st, you're the next Premier of Manitoba, what I want you to do is look ahead a little bit to the following election. And in 4 years, I want you to tell our audience, how is Manitoba going to be different if there's an NDP government for the next 4 years? What's it going to look like? What does success look like for you, and what metrics do you want to be able to hit?
Well, we will have stabilized the healthcare staffing crisis. There will be a new emergency room in South Winnipeg at the Victoria Hospital campus. We're going to have cut the gas tax while inflation was high to save you money. We'll have frozen electricity rates to permanently bend the cost curve on lower carbon energy in the province. And on one point that I haven't had the chance to talk about yet this morning, but is an important commitment of mine because it affects everybody in this room and everyone in the province, we will have taken significant strides to ending chronic homelessness in Manitoba. No one is happy with the status quo when we drive by a bus shelter or a bridge or a tent city in one of our parks. Nobody is happy with that. And you tell me how much stronger our provincial economy is going to be if the next time you bring in an investor or a tourist friend or family member to our downtown, and instead of feeling unsafe, instead you feel proud. How much better is our provincial economy going to be if 4 years from now, Alberta, BC, Ontario are sending their civil servants here to ask, how did Manitoba do it? So, among other commitments, we want to end chronic homelessness in Winnipeg. We need to respond to this humanitarian crisis, as a significant business leader in our community has put it. But we also need to do this as an important building block of unlocking future economic potential. Because until we solve chronic homelessness in Manitoba, it is going to continue to be a drag on our economic performance. And so whether you choose to look at it as an economic challenge, a social one, or just on the level of a fellow human being, I think we all agree that we need to do better on this one. And so...
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Wab Kinew, for spending some time with us this morning and sharing your vision for Manitoba. Thank you again to our event sponsors, Bell MTS, the Manitoba Real Estate Association, our exclusive Leaders Series media sponsor, the Winnipeg Free Press. That concludes our time together this morning. Thank you all for joining us. We encourage you, make sure you get out, vote. Go to voteprosperity.ca to see where we, the Manitoba Chamber of Commerce, is aligned, and we'll also have the response from the various political parties. I hope everyone has a great day. Thanks for coming.